Hey guys, it's Christine, also known as IvyWinter. Thank you for joining me for another Disney video. First of all, I haven't seen you guys yet this year, so Happy New Year. Took a couple of weeks off. I realized this is the first video of 2021 for this channel, so welcome to the new year. It's been crazy already. Not gonna get into that, but it's been a wild ride and we're only a couple weeks into January. But I appreciate you guys sticking around while I took my little bit of a break. I am also in the third trimester now with a little baby dude, and it's tough. I have that renewed exhaustion that I lost in my second trimester and has come raging back this trimester. And I also am just bigger and achier and, you know, dealing with all the joys of that right now. So doing videos and doing things in general can be a little bit tough for me. I mean, just talking to you right now has me out of breath because, you know, my lungs are all squished. Fun pregnancy times. So, you know, I'm going to be making videos as I can, you know, in this last trimester, because my due date is creeping up. And then obviously when this baby comes, I'll probably take a bit of a hiatus. But yeah, cannot believe that I'm officially having this kid this year. Wild. But anyway, not the point of this video. Today's video is about my top 5 favorite cues. It's a topic that I've kind of touched on the TTA podcast before with Rob, though maybe not like in a top 5 format, but we have talked about favorite cues. I think it is a topic that a lot of people talk about because, you know, the theming in Disney World is amazing, and trying to narrow down my picks to just 5 was actually really hard, but I wanted to challenge myself to do it. So it was kind of fun to put those together. But before I even get into my top 5, I want to know in the comments below, what are your top 5 cues in all of Disney World? What are your favorite ones? This was really hard for me. There was definitely some that I wanted to include. There were some that, you know, were in that like 4 or 5 slot, and then I swapped out for others, and it took me a while to really narrow it down. My number 5 is Space Mountain. A big reason why Space Mountain made it onto this list is the music. I feel like the tunnel music is just too classic to not love, to not want to include this in the list. But beyond that, just even that tunnel music section, I love the music for the full queue. I love how it is the same musical theme, but it changes throughout as you get from one section to another. And so that was a big reason I put it on the list. But I also really just like the queue. I think it's really fun indoor queue. I love the darkness of it. I love the, you know, running down those first couple of ramps to catch up to the line ahead of you, which I always love to do. I love the tunnel area with the galaxy views. I know they don't do the interactive games anymore at the moment, but they were super fun when they put them in. And overall, I love the retro futuristic vibe that the queue has. Now, I think one of the downfalls of the queue is the switchback area as you're about to board. Gets a little less interesting. I mean, there's still some stuff to look at. Definitely look up. There's like projections of like space stations and ships and stuff up on the ceiling, but there isn't as much to look at as the rest of the queue. Though I would argue that is kind of fun when you're going first into that section because you do get to see the people's reactions as they're launching off into the ride and making that first turn into the tunnel. So I think that's kind of fun. But overall, I still think it's a really fun queue. I think it's much better than Disneyland's queue. I'm sorry, Disneyland has way better loading area, but the rest of the queue in Disneyland is really boring, and I feel like I just enjoy the Disney World one far more. Part of it also being my top 5 is a little bit of nostalgia, I'm not gonna lie. It's a great classic ride, and I think everything all together, the music, the vibe, the tunnels, the darkness, all of that just kind of does it for me. My number 4 is gonna be Star Tours. I think Star Tours actually has a fantastic queue. There's so much to look at. There's a lot of good story there. I mean, first you've got the outside part of the queue, right, where you're walking through the Ewok village and underneath a big AT-AT. Sorry, I say AT-AT, sorry guys. And while sometimes you might not even experience that part of the queue, especially on quieter days, or you usually just go right into the building, it's still pretty neat. They've got all like the different sound effects of the village happening and all of that. The outside is nowhere near as interesting as when you get inside the actual Star Tours building. And that's where it starts to have, like I said, a little bit of story. Not in your face, blatant, you know, pre-show story. It just pieces together where you are and why. You see those first few screens about all of the different destinations that Star Tours are going to, and there's like the little like commercials of like going to Cloud City and Tatooine, and so you get that like travel vibe that's going on. Of course, you have R2-D2 and C-3PO, which are really cool animatronics, fun to listen to as you're passing by with just their banter. You have a nice little reference to the old captain of Star Tours, Rex. He is there in the queue. Look out for him. There is that great robot that's like scanning people as they're coming in, and he's making comments about what he's seeing and just making comments in general. He's really great too. He's actually really funny. He has some great lines. Then you've got that little screen that projects, you know, what's supposed to look like the silhouettes of people passing by. If you keep a close eye, you'll see silhouettes of different characters you might know, Star Wars and not. And I think that's such a neat little visual trick. I mean, you know, it's just a screen, but it's still really fun to see. And I think the whole thing gives you that vibe of being in like essentially almost like a Star Wars airport, right? That's culminating to the ride of Star Tours, and so I think it tells the story without beating you over the head with the story. And then obviously you get on the ride and it is what it is, but you understand that you're a passenger going on a tour in the Star Wars galaxy before you even get on the ride, so you understand the context of what is happening when you finally are on the ride. And I think it's a really, really great queue. I think it's very entertaining, even if you're in there for a while, which most cases you won't be, but I've still had days where it's been pretty busy, and I don't really mind being in that queue. Number 3 is Tower of Terror. Now, the actual queue of Tower of Terror, every time I say Tower of Terror and I say it really fast, it sounds like I'm saying tartar. I have a joke with my friends about that, and like that's what we actually call it. But when the actual queue of Tower of Terror, we're just saying TOT right now, so I can stop tripping on my words, is fairly short. Rarely have I really stood outside anymore. So when I think of the queue, my brain immediately goes to the indoor section or the area, the courtyard just outside, into the indoor of the hotel. And by all accounts, it's not as long of a queue as some of the other rides. That's also because the ride itself is fairly short. They load a lot of people on it. The queue itself is broken up into 2 different sections, so they're able to do it that way. I do think that the garden area when you're walking in is interesting. I do like some of the decrepit old decor. I like being able to see the building and, you know, watch the doors open while people are dropping. But I think it starts to really hit its stride as you're going into the courtyard area and then turning into the actual hotel itself. That lobby is phenomenal. It has that creepy old vibe. It's got the cobwebs everywhere that give you that feeling that you are now in a hotel that hasn't actually had real guests in a long, long time. There's a lot of cool little references to the show, of course, and not just only in that section, but there's a lot within the lobby. So definitely take a look around if you're a Twilight Zone fan. But also look up. I love the light fixtures in the lobby. They are gorgeous. The whole vibe is just outstanding to me. The music, I love that the music has this like reverb echo to it that makes it even creepier. It's just a really great queue to take some time to look around at. And like I said, sometimes it's awfully short and I feel like I don't get the time to really look as much as I would like to, because they're kind of already ushering you into the pre-show pretty quickly. If the pre-show room counts, and I don't know if you guys count that as queue, but I mean, it's part of it, right? Also phenomenal in terms of references to the show. I often find myself, since I have ridden the ride so many times, not so much paying attention to the TV anymore in the pre-show, but looking around at a lot of the details in the room. And then I always love how that queue always tricked my brain, or at least didn't make me question how I got from the lobby into the basement of the hotel in one fell swoop without changing floors. It took me a few years to go, wait a second, I'm now realizing I'm supposed to be going from like one level of the hotel to another, but I actually haven't changed, you know, the floors or anything, and I just accepted this because I think it's just so well done. And I just really think that queue is fantastic. It might be short, but it's got a lot packed into it. My number 2 is Toy Story Mania. I almost said Midway Mania because I do that a lot, and I might do it anyway in this video. It's kind of like how people still call Hollywood Studios MGM. I know there's no Midway anymore, but I keep saying it. I think that queue is so cool. That one is also a factor of nostalgia, but not nostalgia as in, ooh, it's an old school Disney ride that I love. It's nostalgia in, ooh, these are the toys that I grew up with, right? And I think that they did a great job at picking toys, much like the original Toy Story movie, that have stood the test of time and that I might recognize as something I enjoyed when I was a kid in the 90s, but are also toys that came from like the 60s and 70s that just endured. So people of all ages can enjoy seeing, you know, Barrel of Monkeys and Chutes and Ladders and Scrabble and Connects and all of that. Seeing life-size checker pieces, life-size playing cards. There's just a lot of cool things in that queue that bring up that sense of nostalgia, being a kid again. So it definitely plays on that. It's so bright and colorful. The music's great. And I just think it's a super neat queue. It's always been one of my favorites in terms of the theming. I don't think it gets enough love usually. I think a lot of people talk about a lot of different other queues, but for me, it is number 2, hands down. And my number 1 probably won't come as any surprise to anyone who knows me, knows my favorite park, and knows how much I love this ride, and it is Expedition Everest. I think the queue for Expedition Everest does a phenomenal job at, one, being authentic in its theming, especially for what it's trying to portray and the country it's trying to portray, or the continent, sorry. And 2, for, again, telling a story without overtly telling that story. You know, it's telling the story of how you're going on this expedition, but there is this Yeti museum, and you learn about the mythology of the Yeti, and there's definitely like the guy who works at the museum who believes in this, but there's like little plaques that are like, his opinion do not reflect, you know, this expedition or the museum's beliefs or whatever. So it's like interesting to see that. You've got a section where you're passing through like a climbing gear store, and lots of cool signs and like ledgers and stuff of like the activity of them selling at the store. A lot of the stuff in the queue is authentic. Joe Rohde actually brought a lot of this over from places like Tibet and Cambodia and put that in the queue, but obviously a lot of things are also just replicas of those things. As someone who has been to Southeast Asia and then experiencing Everest again afterwards, like it really made me appreciate it, because it did feel like being back in that area. Some of the touches in terms of design of the statues reminded me of the temples in Cambodia. Like, it's just so well done. I think it is a beautiful queue. It is an interesting queue. If you really take the time to look at everything, it should keep you busy. It should capture your attention. It's a shame when I see people sitting on their phones walking through that queue, because I think it's so cool. You know, if you do single rider, you're missing all of it. If you do fast pass, you're missing most of it. They give you like a little piece of it with some stuff behind a display. But if you're in the regular queue, you get a lot of the story and a lot of that detail, and I just think it's fantastic. So those are my top 5 queues. Again, like I said at the top of the video, I want to know what your top 5 are. Think about it. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you think I'm crazy for putting one of those on my top 5, or that I'm crazy and I missed something. I love those kinds of conversations as well. If you like this video, then like it. If you like me, you should subscribe. Try to make videos every single week. Like I said, you know, third trimester, cannot make promises. I'm doing as much as my body allows me to do right now. But I appreciate you guys sticking around. I mean, I will continue doing videos after this baby is born. There's not going to be a change there. There just might be a change in the kind of content. We'll see. It will always be Disney. Just my focus might be a little different. If you want to join a really great community of people, you should join the Discord. There are friendships that are being made there. There are great conversations happening about Disney in all aspects, but other things, you know, we have a movies channel, a gaming channel, we even have a politics channel if you dare to jump into that. So I highly encourage you to join. The link will be below. If you haven't checked out the TTA podcast, which is a podcast that I do with Rob of Midway to Main Street, you should do that. The link will also be below. We just started a Patreon for the podcast. I will also include that below. If that is something you're interested in, maybe you've been listening and you didn't realize we had one yet. We do now, which is really exciting. So I'll put that there as well. Lots of stuff in the description today. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great rest of the day. Bye.